If you are looking to start a podcast, this video is for you. We are going to be covering everything you need to know, from preparing for your first episode, equipment you need to buy, how to actually get on Apple and Spotify, as well as what to do after your first episode goes live to get those listeners. My name is Pamela and I've been a content creator for the past 4 years now, but I've been online and on social media for the last decade. I've always loved content creation, and now that I've been doing it for myself, I've actually been able to start my own company called Valdez Agency, which is a media company. As of last year, I launched a podcast, and since then, I've learned a lot of different tips and things that I want to share with you guys that I think might be really helpful, whether you are a brand new beginner in the entire podcast industry, or maybe you want to just get some different tips. My podcast that I started last year is called Pretty and Prepared, and it is all about being the best version of yourself and being prepared for whatever life throws at you. So if you guys are interested in that kind of content, definitely go take a listen, but also make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel because I do a lot of videos like that on here to simply elevate your everyday routine, how to live your best life, preparing for success, and really just making sure that you are getting everything that you want to accomplish out of your life, because life is short, so why not live it to the fullest? This video is going to be broken down into 4 different parts: preparation and equipment, all the tips that you need to know on what to do before you actually go live. I will cover all the in-depth steps on how to make sure that you are uploading your episode correctly to Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and how to actually make sure that it all goes live. Lastly, we're going to cover everything you need to know on what to do after your first episode goes live, how to get listeners, setting up a social media page, and more. So let's begin. First, we're going to dive into preparation and everything you need to do before you actually decide to put this on social media, tell people about it, and tell your friends. You have to figure out what kind of content you're going to be posting about. You cannot just pick some random topic that you don't really know much about, or something that you can't go on for over 20 minutes about. Podcasts are not usually less than 20 minutes, but they're not usually over an hour to an hour and a half. That's typically if you are doing an interview style episode. Typical podcast episodes range from 20 to 40 or even 45 minutes. It's really important to make sure that you are picking a topic, like I said, that is something you can talk about for a while, maybe something you're educated on, or something that you are reading up about. I know a lot of people do crime podcast episodes because there's so much information about that online and they have a genuine interest and passion for it. Other people do podcasts about social media tips, or maybe covering, like me, things on how to live your best life and different tips on how to be prepared for whatever life throws at you. So make sure the content you're picking is informative. Next is you want to plan your content and your schedule accordingly. So just like any other content creator, they have specific days that they upload. So make sure that you have a certain day of the week where you know you are going to be able to upload, and that you have another day of the week where you know you can 100% record and edit. And obviously things happen, life is life. There may be some days where you may have to push recordings to a different day, maybe you're busy, something comes up last minute, but it's really important that you know podcasts are not easy to do and they're not easy to grow. It's probably one of the hardest things to do as a creator, but if you are able to just stick it out and continue putting in that hard work and you are showing up every single episode, then you are going to definitely see growth over time. So have a designated day during the week where you know you're going to be uploading the content and it is going to go live. Usually you can schedule it in advance so you don't have to actually sit there and upload it the day of, but you also want to make sure that you have another day during the week where you are going to be sitting down, no distractions, no noise, your dog isn't running around, your brother isn't yelling at you, and you can just literally record. When it comes to planning out your content, I specifically like to use Asana. That is one of my favorite apps when it comes to planning out basically everything for all of my businesses. I have previously talked about Rella before, which is another really great social media management app. This is what I use specifically for my personal partnerships, my brand deals, what my manager and I use when we are trying to keep track of who is paying me, what brand deals have to go up a certain day. However, I like to use Asana when it comes to planning out all of the content for my business, just because I can include different tags on there. I can actually plan different kinds of content and write it out in notes. So that's how I plan my newsletter, my podcast, my blog, my actual TikToks, my everyday routine. So what I like to do is plan out my episodes in advance on Asana. I'll sit down one day throughout the week and I will just plan out all of the notes for that specific episode, but it doesn't take me that long because I usually pick topics that I know I can talk a lot about. I also like to have another board on Asana called Podcast Episode Ideas, and whenever I get a random idea of inspiration, I like to make sure that I go there and I just like to put it in bullet points, and then if I ever am looking for inspiration, maybe I'm having a hard time coming up with an episode idea, I will go back to that board and then look through any of the bullet points and see if anything sounds interesting to me. Next is you want to make a social media page for your podcast. I don't know, like some people like to do this, some people don't. For me, I feel like it's easier for people to come and just follow one page and know that on here you are going to mention whenever you upload new episodes. You can also be a lot more interactive with the people that actually listen to your podcast on there. I knew that as soon as I started a business, I wanted it to be separate from my personal page, because my personal page is just for me and for whoever follows me for whatever content I want to post on there. And I know it can be kind of annoying because now you're turning into like a social media manager for yourself. You have to come up with the content you're going to post on there, recapping the episodes, etc. But at least just knowing that you can secure the social media handle for the Instagram or the TikTok page, I think is great. Now let's get into the equipment. It is really important to have a mic. Obviously, this one is a really cheap mic from Amazon. I absolutely love this, and I have never upgraded my mic since. I've had this for over 2 years now. It is absolutely amazing. It's one of the best mics ever, and it's so cheap, but you can't even really tell when you listen to the audios. Like, it still sounds really great. It's also important to note that if you get a mic that has a USB port, you want to make sure you get a USB-C to USB little adapter. I literally got this from Amazon. I have another one that I also got from Walmart. Both of them are really great. They're super cheap, under $20, and this is literally what you plug into your computer, and then here you are going to put the USB in so that your mic is connected to your MacBook, and this is how you are going to be able to get that mic quality right into your MacBook. I also think it's really important to have a laptop to edit your podcast episode, because if you don't, you can try on an iPhone or an iPad, but I feel like it's going to be very difficult, which is why I really recommend using some sort of laptop. It's just going to be easier to have everything on there. And for this video specifically, I have a MacBook Pro. That's how I'm going to be using it to show you guys how I edit. So if you have any other kind of computer, I'm so sorry, but this is just how I use mine to edit and upload. Lastly is cover art. This is probably one of the more fun and exciting parts of your podcast, because you are coming up with the name and now you can shoot the cover. When it comes to a name, you want to make sure that you're choosing something that's short and sweet. It's fun. It gives a little bit about you. For me, I specifically picked Pretty and Prepared because, I don't know, I just wanted something fun and girly. I feel like the pretty was cute, and then adding the prepared aspect to just show that we are gonna look good and we're gonna be prepared for whatever life throws at us. It was just a random name. And when it comes to cover art, I rented a studio in New York through Peerspace, and I was able to get a pretty cheap studio, and through there, not only did I get some content for social media and some brand deals I did, but I also was able to actually shoot the podcast cover there. There was a random ladder, but it's really cheap to rent a studio, and if not, you can even just shoot it at home. But remember that your cover is essentially like the thumbnail to a YouTube video. It's what is going to make people click and want to listen. Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty, step-by-step details on everything you need to know to actually have your episodes go live, where to record them, getting them on Apple and Spotify, and more. So I'm just going to show you guys step by step, as carefully as I can, how I did this, because it sounds really hard, but once you do it, it's actually going to be so much easier. You need to have an account with Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Riverside, as well as Spotify for Podcasters. So these are the 4 websites that you are going to need an account for. Apple should be easy. If you have an iPhone, then you already have an Apple ID, so you can just log in through there regularly. Apple for Podcasters, or Apple Podcast Connect, you are going to be able to find this page once you log in with your Apple ID. If you have a Spotify account, all you have to do is just use that to log in and make sure that you can confirm your podcast through there. And then lastly is Spotify for Podcasters. Like I said, if you have a regular Spotify account that you use to listen to music, you can use that same login to log into Spotify for Podcasters. On Spotify for Podcasters, once you open up this page, you are going to have to set up your podcast in there, including your name, your description, the name of you as the host, as well as the cover art. So make sure you have all of those things ready on the side. It's good to also have a little blurb of what your podcast is going to be about. You can literally just like write that down in your notes or just something, but make sure you keep this, because this is what is going to be uploaded on Apple, Spotify, and more. Once you're done with all of that, you're going to make sure that you stay in the settings page of Spotify for Podcasters, and at the top there's a button called availability. When you click that, you are going to scroll down and find all of the links to your podcast, including the most important one, which is your RSS feed. People hear this and they get a little bit scared, but essentially this is just a link that keeps you updated with your favorite blogs, websites, online magazines, and more. When you click it, it's gonna look like a bunch of code, so you can completely ignore that. It's good to just have the actual link, because this is what you are going to use to submit it to Apple Podcasts and get it approved. Now we're gonna go over to Apple Podcast Connect. You're gonna log in with your Apple ID, and then you are going to go to the plus sign in purple and click new show. you are now going to use that RSS feed that you just copy and pasted from Spotify for podcasters, and you are going to take that link and paste it into add a new show with RSS feed. It's going to take a few hours or even a few days for Apple to approve this. Then you're going to get an email that says your podcast has been approved, and it's going to have a link to your show, and then you're up on Apple. That is literally how easy it is. It sounds a little bit complicated, but once you do it and you guys go through this walkthrough, hopefully it should be a little bit easier. Now we're going to dive into how to use Riverside to edit and upload your podcast, as well as how to actually get it up on Spotify and Apple. So now that you have already set up your RSS feed on Apple, and hopefully it gets approved quickly, and you also have a Spotify account, you can now go ahead and start recording your first episode. So like I said, I use Riverside. I am currently on the free plan, but at the end of this video, I'm going to break down the free and then the paid one in case you guys are interested. I have not upgraded yet because I haven't hit that 2-hour mark. Once you log into Riverside, you are actually able to create a regular login with your email, or you are able to log in with Spotify. Usually I just do the Spotify route. That's just the easiest, and that automatically connects me to my podcast. Once I am in, now we can begin the recording process. Once you open up Riverside, it is going to say your name and then studio. So mine just says Pamela Studio, and it is going to ask you to check your cam and your mic. So you put that either you're using your headphones or you're not, and if you want the camera on or not. Joining as a producer means that you are just joining more on the editing side. I never click that. Afterwards, you're going to put in a name for the recording, and then you're going to open up the studio. I usually click out the option that says invite people because it's usually just me, and then you're going to have all the options at the bottom, such as record, mic, cam, speaker, etc. So make sure that the mic that you have is connected. Like I said, you guys are going to need this little piece or any kind of USB-C to USB piece, and you have to click that button that is on the right that gives you a drop down of selecting what kind of mic you're going to be using. Make sure that in this drop down your mic is showing up. If it's not, then that means it's probably not plugged in correctly, but you are going to click the option that has the name of your mic, and make sure you're not using the MacBook microphone, because you're gonna be so mad at yourself if you did an entire like 45-minute episode and you were using your MacBook mic the whole time. It's gonna sound so bad. And now it's time for you to actually record. So you can test the audio real quick, and then afterwards you're gonna click the actual record button. So it's time for you to begin. You're gonna have a 5-second countdown, and then boom, you started your first podcast. Here's how you are going to actually edit your podcast episode and then go live directly through Riverside. So as soon as you click the button to stop recording, it's gonna give you a small pop-up on the bottom left of the screen to view your other recordings. They are going to save automatically, so don't worry. Once I finish recording, I go to the studio overall on the homepage, and you are going to see all of the recordings that you just did on there. By clicking the 3 dots, you can rename the audios, and I usually rename them to keep track for myself of the things that I talked about. If you just click the center square, it will bring you to this screen that has a purple edit button with scissors on the right. So you click that, and then you're going to click create new edit because you're making a new episode. Here is where you will see the transcript for the entire clip that you want to edit, and you can go in, cut out some breaths, coughs, whatever it is that you want. By clicking the plus sign on the right or the left, you can click recordings and find the other clip that you want to have added in there. Once you've added all of your clips in, click the purple export button on the top right, and you can have the option to export the video version or just the audio version of your episode, and I usually just do audio, and then I click export audio. Then you can choose to either keep editing or go to exports. By clicking go to exports, you will see this exporting ... and then it will be ready in either a few seconds or even up to a minute, sometimes longer. It really depends how long your clip is. And once it says exported in white, you will click the same screen and it will open up a page that says publish clip. You will see the Spotify button on the bottom in purple, and when you click that, it will bring you to a pop-up screen that says publish your podcast on Spotify. You're going to click the get started button in purple, and the Spotify for Podcasters website will open up, and you must have an account on here connected with Spotify for your podcast. I will log into Spotify, and then it opens up the homepage for me. If you are not logged in previously, you're gonna have to go back to the Riverside page and then click the purple Spotify logo button again, and then it will bring you right to this page that says confirm this is the podcast you want to create page. Confirm this with the purple button, and you will see your fully exported episode. So now it's time to upload your details and your info, adding the title of your episode, the episode description, and all the info at the bottom, such as explicit content, promotional content, etc. Once you click next, it will say that your episode has been published, and it will automatically go live on both Spotify and Apple. I was confused at first if it actually went on Apple on its own, but if you did all the steps previously, like I mentioned, where you put the RSS feed in and it got approved, it's gonna automatically just upload and you're gonna be totally fine. It's gonna go up on both platforms. It is literally that simple. I know that was a lot of steps, but with practice it gets easier. And honestly, I was a hater out of Riverside at first. I'm not gonna lie, I did not know how to use it, but once I started playing around with it more and I watched a few tutorials, I was able to figure it out, and I was like, you know what, this is actually pretty easy. It's not bad. Now let's talk about what to do after you have gone live with your first episode. You obviously want to grow your podcast. It's really important that you stay consistent and you're staying on top of that day where you are going to be uploading. You also want to make sure that you're promoting it online consistently. Make sure that you are just promoting it online, you're sending it to friends and family, and if you don't want to send it to them and you just want organic audiences to come, that is also totally fine. Make sure that on your podcast page you are reposting it onto your main page and you are just trying to get as many eyeballs as possible. Something else that people do is they also post clips of the audio recordings of their episode and they put it over other clips of them doing random things. This is usually what I do. I will take random clips of me doing things around the house or whatever, or me out and about on a walk, and then I will take a clip from the audio of my podcast that I really liked, and then I will put it over that and then upload it to TikTok, re-upload it as an Instagram reel. I just try to recycle that content as much as possible. And I'm telling you, a lot of people do this, and it's actually really great because people listening to this clip, if they're just scrolling through TikTok, are probably going to want to listen to more of your podcast if they're hearing that. Something else that not a lot of people talk about is getting reviews for your podcast. This is something that I don't really have a lot of either, but I heard that this is great because this is also what helps bump your podcast up. So make sure that at the end of your episodes, or even the beginning of them, you're making sure to let your listeners know, review this podcast, rate it on Apple or Spotify, give it 5 stars, whatever it is. Just make sure that you are encouraging your audience and reminding them to definitely give it a review or a rate. One of the last tips that I've gathered when it comes to increasing your listeners for your podcast and growing it is having other guests come on. And although I have not had a guest on my podcast, I usually like to keep it solo. I think that this is great to obviously get more listeners, and you can even do podcast swaps with other people. So you can be on theirs, do an episode with them, and then swap and then have them be on yours. This is great because, you know, if you guys are both posting on your social media, both of your followers will be able to go and listen to either episodes. The last thing I'll be covering is the different features and plans that Riverside offers. This is not sponsored at all, but I think if you are going to be starting and you want to do really long episodes such as interview style podcast episodes, you may want to consider upgrading from the free plan. So I'm currently on the free plan, but if you're going to be, like I said, uploading long content, you are going to be able to get 5 hours of audio and video tracks a month with no watermark if you are shooting with video. However, if you keep the free account, you're only going to be getting 2 hours of multi-track recordings and the editing tools that I previously mentioned. That is all for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope this was informative. This is honestly everything that I would have wanted to know when I was starting a podcast. But if you guys have any questions, definitely let me know in the comments. All of your support is really appreciated, and I love you guys so much. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!